About a week ago, I made a video about what each Cedar Fair park's next coaster will be. Well, today, we will go over the Six Flags chain with their 15 parks all over North America. Usually, a video like this would be straightforward, but Six Flags is going through a Salim Basood-sized mess, with Salim saying they are done with coasters just to cave in because, Six Flags is known for coasters. Because of this, unlike Cedar Fair where I had more realistic guests and the timeline was also kind of more realistic, this is going to be less. Like last time, we're going to go over the parks farther from getting a coaster and then move to the present or after Salim is fired. Also, before we start, I'm not counting the coasters Salim forgot to construct in 2023. So the ones at St. Louis and over Georgia and Fiesta, Texas. Six Flags St. Louis. This park is supposed to get a Vekoma Junior coaster in 2023. And if you look at the history of the park post-bankruptcy, this park has gotten no non-relocate coasters before this most recent coaster. Because of this, I don't really see Six Flags rushing to get a new coaster to this park. So my prediction is somewhere around 2031. The real question is what this coaster would be. Like, Rookie Racers is supposed to be the new kids coaster, but I still think it's a little too intense to be considered a kiddie coaster. But you can say that because this coaster was a kids coaster, they'll go with something more intense. Personally, I think it will be a kids coaster. We don't know what coasters are going to be around in 8 years, but with going with things that are already known, in 2031, Six Flags St. Louis will get a Skyline Pescetti Bowl coaster. I think this model will be the E.F. Myler of the 2000s. Skyline has had a lot of promise as a company, especially post the disasters of their thrill coasters. And with Six Flags being kind of a budget chain, it makes a lot of sense for them to partner with Skyline. For why Spaghetti Bowl, I think that Rookie Racer isn't the best option for the smallest thrill seekers, and this would give them a coaster to ride. For where in the park, I can see Six Flags removing the small train ride between some flats and the actual train tracks that are functional. La Ronde. This park missed its coaster window when it had plans for the old Green Lantern from Magic Mountain, but it was ultimately scrapped. I don't think the Six Flags chain will compensate the park for this, and it'll keep on going as if that had been put in the park and then was just removed. Because of this, I don't see La Ronde getting a new coaster till at least 2031 as well. But unlike St. Louis, I do see a thrill coaster coming to the park. The real question is if the Six Flags chain is going to cheap out, and if so, how. In 2031, I see La Ronde getting a premier ride, Skyrocket 2. When I took a look at the lineup, this was the park's only major gap. A launch coaster. But I don't see Six Flags shelling out the big bucks for a coaster at La Ronde. And this is kind of a cheaper option for a launch coaster. For where in the park, I see this going in the old Super Menagerie plot of land. Sorry, Thusies, no RMC Monster happening anytime soon. Six Flags America. Poor Six Flags America. You're located in the country's capital and have a population of 7.5 million in a 55-mile radius. But you are treated like you're in Alaska, miles from civilization. This park is horribly treated by the chain, so it's nearly impossible to guess when or what the next coaster will be. But for this video, I'm guessing 2030 for that next coaster. The park isn't really missing anything, doesn't have any major gaps, but one thing I kind of think they're missing is one more family coaster. One that's more intense than a kiddie coaster, but doesn't spin like Raging Cajun. But I think in 2030, we'll be getting a more thrilling coaster, and that's why I'm going with the RMC Roar. This GCI is widely considered as one of the worst GCIs, if not Woody's in general. And And when its sister coaster at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom was RMC'd, it was a little joke that they RMC'd the wrong coaster. I don't think that Six Flags is going to make a big splash at this park, and RMC conversions are considerably cheaper than a ground-up coaster, and it would be a perfect fit for this park. Frontier City. Frontier City sits on a very small plot of land, and basically any expansion would need a removal of the ride. Plus, this is a really underlooked park, so I don't think Six Flags is going to rush to get something new to this park. But to give a date, I see 2029 being the year for the next coaster at this park. This park has a very severe lack in thrill coasters, but you can't get any thrill coaster because the park has a Western frontier theme, and some coasters would be really out of place in this park. For 2029, I see Frontier City getting SNS free spin like Tumbili at King's Dominion. The reason why I go for the free spin is because it would be a perfect fit and fill a need for the park, as well as being a very space-efficient coaster. And I also say Tumbili because I don't see them getting the larger model that Six Flags given all their other parks, and the smaller one instead. If we're in the park, I see it going in the go-kart spot between the backstage and River Rapids. Six Flags Great Escape. This park just recently got the Six Flags branding added to the park, and this could possibly mean some bigger investments are coming to the park. As much as I would like to believe that this is the truth, this is still Great Escape, and those investments, if real, will be flats instead of coasters. I do see a coaster come to Great Escape in 2029. This park is loaded with family rides and really needs a more thrilling coaster. The question is if RMC will cheap out on a small cloned coaster or if they're going to get something original for the park. Personally, for 2029, I see an out-and-back RMC Single Rail coming to the park. This makes sense for the park because it gives the park an airtime machine and a good multi-looper. And they would have to remove Screamin' Demon, but this would still be a big win for the park. Six Flags Darien Lake. This is another park that I see very far from its coaster window. It could have been closer if they hadn't put Titan Track on Predator. Because of the Titan Track, I don't see a coaster coming to this park until 2028. The question is, what coaster does Darien Lake need? For extreme thrill coasters, they are still missing a launched coaster. Also a gimmicky coaster that makes people be so intrigued, ooh, I need to go ride that. While as a enthusiast, I would love to pick a thrill coaster for this park. Their biggest need is a middle coaster between the kiddie and the more intense coasters of the park. That's why, for 2028, I had Six Flags Darien Lake getting a Skyline Trail Runner. I'll be honest, I wanted to add this coaster to one of the parks in this video, but this was the first park that makes sense. They need a middle coaster, and this could be it. I also chose the model because it's designed for terrain-based layouts, and I see this coaster going on the hill right next to the front entrance. Six Flags Over Texas. For being the original Six Flags park, the company doesn't treat it as well as Cedar Fair and Cedar Point. This park just got a new coaster in 2023, 2020, and it was just delayed to this year, in Aquaman. I got a feeling Six Flags will pretend that this park was supposed to get the coaster in 2023 and wait longer for the next coaster. That's why I think Over Texas has to wait until at least 2028 for a new coaster. As for what, Aquaman fills the water and launch box, but there isn't much you can add to the park that would build onto the park. And also, there's very limited space. That's why I'm doubling up on coasters. For 2028, I have Over Texas getting a Premier Skyrocket 2. This is the biggest stretch of the video so far, but it's really the only coaster I can fit in without removing anything else. This doesn't fit, this also fits because, it gives a launch to those who don't really want to get wet, especially in that winter area when the park is still open, but, who wants to get wet in 70-degree weather? And I have this going in the right across from Joker. Six Flags Mexico. Like Six Flags America, for being a major metropolitan area with a huge population, this park is overlooked by the chain. Most of the newer coasters in this park are relocated from other parks within the chain, with their newest being an RMC conversion and an SNS free spin. Because of this, I don't see the park getting a new coaster till at least 2027. For what? The park is truly only missing a launch coaster with a good collection of family coasters. This launch should be a thrill coaster also. So, for the 2020 season, Six Flags Mexico will be getting an SNS compressed air launched, something similar to Catapult roller coaster at Sun Tzu Cultural Park. This coaster makes a lot of sense for the park because it gives a really thrilling launch, plus a quite intense layout. Something the park is missing. For where in the park, I see it going in the dead space between Superman and Joker. Six Flags New England. Like Mexico, New England has only gotten a relocated coaster, RMC, and SNS free spin since the bankruptcy. So I think they're on the same track as Mexico, and will also get a new coaster in 2027. The park needs a launch coaster, and by having a very similar collection of kiddie coasters as Mexico, this new launch coaster will be another thrill coaster. But unlike Mexico, New England will be getting a Premier Rides launch coaster, something like West Coast Racers, for 2027. This coaster makes a lot of sense because it would give a Mobius loop coaster to the East Coast, as well as a really good looping coaster to this park. And to put this in, they would have to get rid of the other boomerang in the park. But it would kind of have this nice, like, park path intersection, kind of, going over the path, basically. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. This park is very front-loaded. Seriously, all the coasters are in the front of the park, due to the animals in the back. Because of this, the park has very little space to put in rides. The only free space in the park is the old Harley Quinn plot, but that's a really small space. But modern Six Flags has shown that they love this park and use it as one of their testing grounds. Plus, California's Great America is on the way out, and Six Flags may need to give people reason to go to Discovery Kingdom instead of, oh, let's go to Great America for the last time. You said that last time, but let's go again. That's why I think 2026 is a perfect year for a new coaster for this park. And this is a time coaster enthusiasts have been waiting for since 1998. To make way for this new coaster, we would have to publicly execute Kong. To replace it, 2026 will bring a Premier Rides launch coaster to the park. I think this is a good fit for the park because bringing a larger layout, like launch coaster, would work with a compact Skyrocket 2 that is already in the park. I also think this could be more airtime focused, while the rest of the park is more inversion focused, even with their RMC, which is more of an inversion focused RMC. Six Flags Over Georgia. This park is in a really weird situation, because this year we saw Fun Spot Atlanta, of all places, add an all-new RMC hybrid coaster. Of all places, Fun Spot may give some problems for the Six Flags chain, because the park has a lot of open space available for future expansions, and a proximity to the busiest airport in the world, which could take the thrill seekers who are on layovers away from going to Six Flags for maybe 3 hours to going to Fun Spot for a couple hours. That's why I have a 2026 date for the next coaster going to over Georgia. Until this year, I would have told you that the biggest need was a kiddie coaster. But now that there's Kid Flash in the park, the biggest need is a launch coaster. I have Six Flags Over Georgia getting an SNS compressed air launch in 2026. I have this over another launch coaster, say Premier, because I like I think a high-speed launch coaster would be a perfect fit for the park than an inversion-based one. Plus, plus a Max Force style ride could give the park a niche record, like fast acceleration, which is kind of a niche one, or a fastest speed in Georgia. And for the park, I see it going in the go-karts area plus into the parking lot a little bit. Six Flags Magic Mountain. It seems that this park gets a new coaster every 2 or 3 years, and if we pretend that West Coast Racers and Wonder Woman happen on time, the next coaster should come in 2024/2025. Plus, we have been seeing the park tease a Giga, but nothing at the park has kind of hinted at there's going to be a new coaster next year. So I think that coaster is going to come in 2025. Oh, also the Giga isn't going to be a coaster. It's going to be a Sky Flyer or a Giga elevator to the Sky Tower. And honestly, I wouldn't even be upset with that because I'll finally be able to go into the Sky Tower in my lifetime. But those additions are probably going to come in 2024. So I think it's safe to say that a coaster is coming in 2025. This park is so loaded on coasters that it's really hard to come up with something that would improve the lineup. But with Slim's focus on families, I think the next coaster is clear. In 2025, Six Flags Magic Mountain will be getting a Skyline Trail Runner. See, I added it again. This makes sense for the park because it gives another moderate coaster to the park that is really top heavy on coasters and has a very tiny counterweight of kiddie coasters. Nothing really in between. The question is, where would it be located? It would either replace the current mine train, which is counterproductive but is Six Flags, so who knows, or replace the River Rapids ride. I think this coaster would replace the River Rapids because the park has been on a spree of removing water rides for coasters. Think of Wonder Woman and also Full Throttle and a couple other rides. But also, this coaster has been very temperamental, and it seemed like a sister ride to Tidal Twister at SeaWorld San Diego. Six Flags Great America. This park was normally on the same pace for new coasters as Six Flags Magic Mountain, but it's been 4 years and there isn't anything but rumoring about new coasters. Because of this, I think Great America is close to a new coaster, but not this coming year. I have the park getting a coaster in 2025 because of that. This park is in a very similar situation as Six Flags Magic Mountain, except the fact that their counterweight is bigger, but still small. They need another coaster that is for little kids. Because of the wooden Little Dipper, many kids may be a little too scared for that because it's a wooden coaster and those are kind of scary for little kids. Because of that, in 2025, I have Six Flags Great America getting another Skyline Spaghetti Bowl coaster. I know, another Skyline Spaghetti Bowl coaster, but I really do think they're the future of kiddie coasters. And Six Flags wants to be focused more on families, especially family coasters. For where in the park, I see it going in a small piece of dead space between Demon. Six Flags Fiesta Texas. This park just got coasters in back-to-back years, one being a big B&M and the other being a kiddie coaster. Because of this, I don't see a coaster coming next year, but this park is the testing ground for the chain, so I don't see it being too long either. That's why I have 2025 being the year for the next Fiesta Texas coaster. This park doesn't really have any major need, and because of this is the testing ground for the chain, I'm going to go off the board for my prediction. In 2025, Fiesta Texas will get a B&M surf coaster. I know this is probably the most unrealistic prediction, or the most realistic prediction on theme park predictions and more. But I could kind of see this happening. Six Flags loves this park, and they already put a new B&M in here, and I don't know, but I feel like the Surf Coaster is a little bit cheaper than any of the other B&M models, and it could perfectly fit into this boardwalk section. But take this prediction with a grain of salt. Six Flags Great Adventure. This is the only park that I see getting a coaster in 2024. Salim said that this year would be big for the park, as it's celebrating the 50th anniversary. We already know that the log flume is getting a renovation in 2024, and a bunch of markers have appeared in the front of the park. You could say that they're redoing the entrance and not a new coaster, but I would have to challenge you, because most parks nowadays, think of Carowin, Cedar Point, etc., get a all new front gate coaster when they do these new entrances. And personally, I think that it will end up being a coaster. I think it would be a premier rides coaster, a launched one in 2024. Besides the B&M, what would be more picturesque than a launched coaster launching, doing maybe a stall or some type of quick inversion over the path? This also makes sense for the park because King Ka is a really intense coaster, and it's the only one that's launched in the park. And this coaster, while still be quite intense, would give a kind of a step up from, okay, I'm not really right. I want to do a launch coaster, but I'm not ready for King Ka for those kind of little kids. And this would be a perfect fit. Finally, we're done with Six Flags for this video. Unlike Cedar Fair, I'm less confident in my answers, but I try to use some type of logic to make the Six Flags picks. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button and subscribe. Don't be scared; they don't bite. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.